right, good Thursday morning to everyone except Dave Roberts and Rob Manfred. Jared Carrabis saying it best here on Twitter. Pulling Clayton Kershaw 6 outs away from a perfect game at 80 pitches should be a crime punishable by up to 90 years in prison. Come on!
I mean, geez. Moves like this is why...
Yes!
Baseball is dead! And
Dead.
Speaking of baseball is dead, you don't want to miss the latest episode of Jared's new DraftKings podcast,
Terrible.
which drops...
Not the podcast.
When does it drop?
It drops
this afternoon!
It's going to drop this afternoon.
My God.
And you know he's going to have something meaty to say about this.
There's going to be some hot takes about this.
And speaking of meaty, this show, The Sweat, presented by DraftKings, I'm Emerson Lancia alongside Jesse Bun in the Oven Cofield. I do want to
37 weeks today.
It's true, dude. She's never been more miserable than she is
Never
right
been
now.
more miserable, never been more pregnant.
You can't even like breathe properly
No, I can't
right
breathe
now.
properly. My lungs are like in my brain.
Yep. That's
They're
right.
not
And
where
if you
they're
sneeze,
supposed to
you
be.
pee.
Yeah, when I sneeze, I pee. My lungs are in my brain. It's just not.
That's a lot of information.
There really is, and I'm really glad that you're here, DraftKings contributor, one of our baseball gurus, Steve Buchanan. Also, Nick Friar is here.
Many Nick Friars are present.
Nick, that
Too
is
many.
That is quite.
Yeah.
quite
Wow.
Yeah, no, I don't know who this guy is. I mean, he looks pretty good, but that's not me.
And
That's
you're not
somebody
wearing
else.
a flannel today. Wow.
Well, again, this person is a different person. That is not me in my background. I would never do that. I'm not that narcissistic.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Hey, Bukes, which side are you on here? Leave Kershaw in or pull him at 80 pitches, just 6 outs away from becoming the 24th perfect game in MLB history, a sport that's been around since the 1500s?
1500s. Yeah, that's correct. That's actually the correct date. Absolutely asinine to pull Clayton Kershaw in that type of scenario. I know it's early April. We got to worry about health. We had we didn't have an extended spring training. These guys have to be careful. It's not like he was 5 innings out. He's 6 outs away from something that, quite frankly, he will probably never have the opportunity to do again. If anybody gets on, fine. Then you pull him after that. Kershaw was a great sport about it. He was like, I was okay with the decision. He didn't throw his manager under the bus. But deep down, you have to think that that's something he wanted to do. Already has a no-hitter under his belt. Would love the opportunity to get a perfect game. He's getting older. This opportunity is not going to come again. That was total crap.
100%. Like, Friar, what say you here? Because to me, he's going to get, with his injury history, he's going to get injured like either way. It could be the next couple of games, like 5 pitches in. We obviously don't wish that at all, but
Right.
I'm like, it's mind-boggling to me that he wouldn't have this opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know how you move on from this as a pitcher. I mean, you got to go out there and just do your job like any other day. But I mean, I don't know how you don't have a little bit of resentment in some capacity towards not necessarily your manager, but the people who are above him. Because honestly, that's the biggest thing for me with Dave Roberts. It's like when you look back on your career as a manager, how much are you going to really appreciate what you did? How much are you going to feel like, yeah, that was a lot of what I did, a lot of the decisions I made. I knew where to push the buttons. Or you're going to look at it and say, all the people in the front office told me what to do, and I was just basically a puppet. Because that's what this move is right here. There's no way that any real baseball person is going to go and say, oh yeah, you know what? It's early in the season. He's only at 80 pitches. He doesn't have time to recover if he's exhausted after this game, if he goes 120 or whatever. I understand that's unheard of now, but it's a perfect game. Let the guy throw it. He's a legend. He's earned this. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, he's had the no-hitter, but we're talking a perfect game, and Steve, you nailed it too. He's in the back 9 of his career here. This is just a 1-year deal, that he's on. If I'm him, I'm like, damn, man, I don't know if I'm going to be back in this position, ever again.
He did say after the game, as much as I would have wanted to do it,
yeah.
I've thrown 75 pitches in a sim game. I hadn't gone 6 innings, let alone 7.
He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's going to say the right things.
But I was just saying to you before the show, which I think that you guys might agree with this, it's so interesting because if he hadn't gotten pulled, if Roberts hadn't pulled him, and then he had gotten injured, everyone would be on here being like, how do you not take an injury-prone guy this early in the season? How do you not take him out of this game? It's either
People- yeah,
way.
people wanna
It's
be
like,
upset
you
about
know,
I got to say, guys, I would disagree. I think that
Really?
this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for anybody. It's a perfect game. This is no joke. Like, if you got a guy who's got an opportunity for that, look, freak accidents happen, absolutely. But this early in the season, heaven forbid it's like a Tommy John injury or whatever. That's different. But other than that, like, yeah, he's going to have time to recover. So no, I would be totally fine if you left him in and something happened.
Definitely blame the analytics people for this. People who look like Nick Friar.
okay. Okay.
Wow.
Well, Kershaw's teammate Walker Buehler is going for the Dodgers tonight. His
Oh.
outs recorded prop sits at 16.5 right now. That's 5 1/3 innings. He went 5 innings and only 78 pitches in his first start. So assuming that Roberts stretches him out a little more tonight, is this your favorite pitcher prop that you're looking at this evening, Steve?
No, there's actually one that I like with JT Brubaker going for the Pirates. Hits allowed, you can get over 4.5 at -115. That feels pretty low for against a Nationals team who, quite frankly, they're going to go nowhere this season, but they've been hitting the ball, at least in the early going. And the thing with Brubaker is he struggles against lefties. If you look at the Nationals lineup that they've been running out since the season began, realistically, 5 of the top 6 hitters can or already do hit from the left side. So they could really have an offensive barrage in the early going here against Brubaker. And you look at what Washington's done so far, they're ranked 7th in hits already this season with 51. And then with Brubaker, he's allowed over 4.5 hits in 14 of the 24 starts that he made last season. All of this combined says, this is a pretty good prop. I think I'm going to take it.
All right, Nick, what's your favorite pitcher prop that you're looking at tonight?
Yeah, I think it's a great call by Steve on Brubaker. He's neat. I think sometimes he's look good, but other than that, like I think he's an easy guy to pick on. Anybody on the Pirates pitching staff kind of is. But for me, my favorite one tonight is Charlie Morton at 5.5 Ks. The over on that going up against the Padres. Through 30.5 innings against starting pitching this season, the Padres have struck out 36 times. 22 of those innings have come against right-handed pitchers, and those pitchers have racked up 26 Ks in that span. I know that Morton only got 5 last time out, but only pitched 5 in the 3rd inning, and he only threw 78 pitches, so we should see a larger workload for him tonight. He's going up against a team that strikes out a lot.
How about a hitter prop tonight, Nick? Another big storyline yesterday, like beefy, bloodied, Vladdy Jr., going 4 for 4 against the Yankees. He was 0 for 8 in the series leading up to yesterday's game, and he hits not 1, not 2, but 3 taters. So, and 2 of them off Kermit Cole. So anything you like Vladdy Jr. related in the prop department?
So Vladdy was not the guy who was on my radar, although I will say that first home run he hit off of Cole was absurd, too. That thing was in on his hands. I don't know how he got around on that one. But when you look at Salvador Perez, did it the night before. He had 2 bombs, a guy who a lot of us were on over the course of last season. Over 1.5 total bases for him tonight, going up against Casey Mize, a guy who he's done well against throughout the course of his career, 7 for 15. Got a double home run. Both of those extra base hits came last season. And look, I know Mize does a little bit better against right-handed pitching than he does against left-handed pitching, but this is a guy who has a track record, has familiarity with him. They saw Mize quite a bit last season. If you want a little bit more value too, because that one's at like -105, Mookie Betts over 1.5 total bases at +120. And I also like Connor Joe tonight. It's -115. It's a little bit lower, but he's been great to start the season. Over 1.5 total bases. But if you're just going to go with one, Salvy's the guy tonight.
All right, who's your guy tonight in the hitter prop department, Steve?
Yeah, staying with that Nationals-Pirates game, taking Josh Bell to go over 1.5 bases at +125. He's already collected a double and 2 home runs through the first 7 games of the season, which I think is more than he did through the first half of the entire year last year. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that already exceeded his numbers from last season. You look at what Brubaker has done, like I said, he really struggles against lefties, but last year with men on base, because we're expecting that already in the early going, opposing hitters hit 277 off him last year. So Josh Bell already flashing a little bit of power so far this season, getting him over 1.5 bases at +125. I think that's a really strong number there, especially with the early struggles by the Pirates bullpen as well. So even if he doesn't get it against Brubaker, there should be plenty of opportunities as this game goes on. So like getting the plus money here at +125 for Bell to go over 1.5 bases.
Hey, Steve, would you consider Vladdy Jr. over half a home run here, +320, so basically to go yard?
I mean, obviously you're chasing what happened last night.
Yes.
He's obviously not going to do what he did last night. Obviously home runs, the odds are so long because of how rare that it happened. So if you're throwing something small on that, by all means, but this is not something I'm particularly looking at for tonight.
Okay.
All right, which game total is going over the run total here? Braves Padres only 7.5 here, Steve.
I am going to go to that Blue Jays and Yankees games at over 8.5. I think that's just a little bit too low, just like it was last night. Here's the thing. Overs are not hitting at all so far this season. They've only hit 39.5% of the games so far this season. Now, granted, we're a week as of today of the season starting, but unders have absolutely dominated thus far. That being said, you have to look at this matchup here. We don't really know what we're going to get out of Luis Severino, who didn't pitch all of last year. And then you have Kevin Gausman, who is with the Blue Jays. Obviously, Gausman was phenomenal when he was with the Giants. But now he's coming back here in the AL East with the Blue Jays. His numbers when he was in the AL East before were extremely poor. I think we have this notion that Gausman is this newfound pitcher, but we have to take into consideration where he's been pitching for the past couple of years. Now he's coming back to the AL East against a very powerful lineup, and you can obviously say the same about the Blue Jays as well. When these two teams are going together, if I see a total of 8.5, I have to side with the over in that one.
All right, Nick, which run total is catching your eye?
I hate saying this, but I think Steve put that really well. You're at Yankee Stadium too, which obviously I always talk about how it's a crackerjack box there. Any fly ball can go out, whether it's to right or left. No disrespect to Vladdy because he earned those home runs. But I think when you look at Severino, and the biggest thing though is Gausman too. Yeah, I mean when he was with the Orioles, I remember watching him this guy has some great stuff, but he just cannot put it together. And yes, he put it together when he moved away from the division. His stuff got much tighter, but still, these are guys who have hit him really hard. You look at some of the track records of these guys in the AL East. One of the guys who've done really well against him throughout their career is Aaron Judge. So I just think you've got to take the over on this one tonight, again, with Severino being a big question mark, too.
All those dudes hitting the baseball extremely hard is not helping John Sterling on some of his home run calls either. Which team's run line or which team's run line or money line do you like tonight, Nick?
I'm going to go to that Braves-Padres game because, of course, I do feel really good about Charlie Morton tonight on the bump. And, of course, we've seen the Braves offense do quite a bit of damage in the early going so far. And I don't have a ton of faith in Joe Musgrove. I've never been really that high on him. I know he had a quality start against the Diamondbacks last time out, and he struck out 8 guys. But, I mean, again, this is a guy who I question in terms of length every time he goes out there, what he's going to do. And the Padres, from an offensive perspective, yes, they had a 10-run showing fairly recently, and they've had one 5-run showing. But other than that, it's been crickets. And if you look at the matchups, too, and how the Padres have done against Charlie Morton over the course of their careers, there's really only one guy that's seen him a lot and hit him well, and that is Jurickson Profar. Other than that, a lot of unfamiliarity for this lineup against Charlie Morton, which always plays in a pitcher's favor.
All right, Steve, I'm looking at your Mariners minus 110 there on the money line. And the White Sox have some injury issues now early on.
Yeah, look, the Mariners are always a play. I don't have to tell you that. So I'm going to, divulge and go into something else. I think the Angels at minus 1.5 going against the Rangers is a play to make tonight, especially with Shohei Ohtani on the mound. Now, if you look at his numbers from last year, it almost seems as if he struggled on the road. A 5.02 ERA. That's not very good. But if you look at his FIP, which really is a measurement of ERA, if you strip away defense, it was down to 3.34. So that really indicates that he was a victim of some shoddy defense behind him with the Angels. But then you look at who the Angels are facing tonight in Dane Dunning. They absolutely destroyed his confidence every time he took the mound against them last year. 13 innings pitched, 12 runs, 16 hits. What's the Angels' problem? This guy has a family. Why do they want to embarrass him like that? I don't care, because tonight I'm betting on the Angels to win. So you embarrass him in front of his family tonight, that's okay with me. But from a normal basis, if I'm not betting it, give the guy some slack. But with those numbers all combined, minus 1.5 for the Angels tonight, I think that's a solid number against the Rangers, who, by the way, have no pitching at all. Absolutely atrocious.
All right, Steven, hit us with your slate-approved pick, your absolute favorite bet on the board tonight.
So you're going to have to take this now because the line is moving quickly. But under 8 runs for the Phillies and Marlins, I believe it's now at minus 120. It was minus 110 about an hour ago. I don't feel great about taking an under when it involves that Phillies offense. But this one is in Miami, and they're facing a Marlins team that has scored a total of 14 runs this entire season. As a club, they're hitting 199 with a 264 on-base percentage and a 313 slugging. They're going up against Kyle Gibson, who looked like Pedro Martinez against the Oakland Athletics in his first start of the season. And then the Marlins are running Sandy Alcantara, who was phenomenal in Miami last year. 2.41 ERA, 38 total runs allowed through 104 and 2/3 innings. There's not going to be a lot of offense in this one, especially with it being in Miami. So take this now at 8 before it ends up moving to 7.5.
Nick, make your case.
Yeah, I talked about Charlie Morton earlier, and I feel really great about him going in tonight. I think his strikeouts prop is going to be my absolute #1 favorite at plus money too. So make sure you guys move on that because I saw it open at plus 120. I think it's moved down a little bit since then. But looking at what the Padres have done, in the early going, especially in the strikeout department, and now we're going to get a little more length out of Morton. I think that he should easily get to 6 strikeouts tonight.